My name is Andy Baldwin. I'm from the University of Oxford. I'm a professor there. My title is Professor of Magnetic Resonance and Biophysical Chemistry. I'm very interested in complicated molecules, biological molecules, such as proteins. So we are organisms, we're kind of complicated. In many senses, we are big bags of quite complicated chemicals. Understanding how the molecules interact with each other is the study of trying to understand life. And that's the thing that I'm quite curious by. So understanding how molecules take the shapes that they do, how molecules interact with drugs, how these interactions lead to behaviors and malfunctions, such as disease. So when something goes wrong and we have disease, how can we basically fix that situation? So I like it because it's an extremely complex subject, so I enjoy the complexity of it. There's a few projects I've been involved with that I think have led to some useful outputs. The problem of neurodegeneration is one that is an extremely important thing to worry about. So neurodegeneration, diseases such as Alzheimer's disease and dementia and those sorts of things, but basically none of us, when we get old, want ourselves or our family to start behaving in the way that you do when your brain starts to erode in the way that it does. So it was the case, perhaps going back to, say, the 1970s, our understanding of cancer was relatively rudimentary. After a huge amount of fundamental research, we're finally in the position now where cancer is not cured, but the mortality rates for cancer are very significantly lower than they once were. To understand neurodegeneration and these types of things, that's what I've worked on, and that's what I'm quite proud of. We found that essentially the behavior of molecules in your brain is almost primordial in some sense. So if the organism, if the person is a very complicated arrangement of molecules, the form that the molecules take on, the proteins take on when you have these diseases, is chemically speaking much simpler. And so we've evolved to where we are, but when we get old, the molecules start, in a real sense, reverting to an earlier state. And that process is one, if we can understand it a little bit better, we can start developing drugs. And actually, some of the first Alzheimer's drugs have been made available by Eli Lilly August last year, in August 2023, where the first drugs came out for this. They're not great drugs by any definition, but they do slow the decline of Alzheimer's, and they're the first to do so. The way they do that is related to the work that I did. The specific species they're targeting, the small aggregates of protein, the mechanism, the specific thing they're targeting, that's an area that I've contributed to. But I'm very fortunate to have a very diverse team. Two specific areas that we work on quite intensely. We continue to work on problems involving neurodegeneration. So we want to understand how the molecules get to this primordial state and what we can do to stop it, basically. So there's a lot of our activities are associated with trying to understand the fundamental molecular interactions that go that way. Again, there's some very fundamental cell biology that has emerged that my group also enjoys. Essentially, in undergraduate textbooks of when learning the cell, when learning what a cell looks like and learning the parts inside a cell in the basic textbooks you get when you're a student, there are parts in there that are very poorly understood. There's a class of bodies called membraneless organelles that form inside cells, so the kind of bodies seen. And the studies of these bodies are having a little bit of a renaissance in recent years. So yeah, my group is focused mostly on those two problems. Both of them are ones where we believe that if we understand the fundamentals a little bit better, then we can use that to design things like therapeutic treatments and so on and so on. Places that I'm going to aim to go, certainly with my group, places we would love to go if we could. We want to understand how we can make better treatments for the diseases I mentioned. The things we need to get there, a lot of the research I do is joined by the synthesis of good samples, working with medics, getting good cells, good chemists, but joining it with the hardware and the magnetic resonance and the NMR. So one thing that particularly Brooker are leading with is the development of more and more advanced instruments that can show us more and more about these systems that we care about. So this is one thing that is very exciting as the hardware manufacturers such as Brooker make instruments that show us more about these molecules, the more we learn. And so taking advantage of the new opportunity that we get with the new technology is something that I'm very much looking forward to. And using that, the tools, working with the developers to find new ways of looking at molecules that lead to ultimately all of us living longer, happier and better, and those sorts of things.